So a lot of people have been requesting something wicked this way comes, which is interesting because when the film came out, it was a major bomb. It didn't even make half of its money back. And truth be told, I never even heard of it until I was like maybe in the 9th grade. I remember it's being shown in my school as an understanding of Ray Bradbury's work, and all the kids were so excited. Something wicked this way comes. Oh, I love that movie. I was kind of wondering how I missed it, as I thought I saw all the really dark 80s kids films that came out around that time. I say this to point out that this is not a film I grew up with, so I'm not really gonna let the nostalgia factor get in the way. But that doesn't necessarily make it a bad film, I just don't think I love it like everybody else loves it. The movie centers around two boys, one named Will Holloway and the other named, get this, Jim Nightshade. God, how does Bradbury find these incredible names? They're often seen around Will's father, who's an old librarian, and they spend most of their time just getting into trouble, all sorts of typical boy stuff. But then one night, a carnival arrives. I mean literally one night. It's all put together in a matter of just a few minutes. And this has been put together by Dr. Dark, played by Jonathan Pryce. He welcomes people to the carnival, but the boys figure out that slowly but surely it seems to be sucking away people's souls, apparently draining their life force and messing with their actual age. Of course, nobody believes the boys' story, so it's up to them to figure out how to stop this evil monster. I get the feeling even if I saw this as a little kid, I wouldn't find it very scary, but it is pretty creative. The atmosphere and characters especially make up for the fact that the story itself is not phenomenally interesting, or at least kinda slow moving. They kind of go through the typical run-of-the-mill stuff of people not believing them, trying to convince those that will believe them, foiling the charismatic, diabolical villain, all that good stuff. It's not a film that screams exciting or super creepy, it's more of a laid-back, kind of elegant film. It's hard to explain, it's like the creepy stuff doesn't come out at you and say boo. It's more building up this environment that slowly is trying to get you without you necessarily even knowing it. And at the foreground of that is Jonathan Pryce, who is just perfect as the villain. He never goes quite too over the top, but at the same time, he's just so graceful and loving of what he does. Just look at that outfit, you can tell he wears that suit with such incredible charisma. But at the same time, he's never too charming that he's not scary. A kid can still look at him and know he's the bad guy. I really like Will's father in this too. You just get the feeling he's trying to make ends meet, be a good person, just do what needs to be done. But at the same time, life is starting to wear on him and he just doesn't know what to believe in anymore. This of course is a great contrast for the kids who see all sorts of fantastic things but have a hard time making the adult of the world realize it. A part of me does wish it would go a little further with its creepy imagery and disturbing thoughts. Why not get a few more monsters or go a little bit edgier? I think that's why people still talk about films like Return to Oz and Sleepy Hollow and so forth, because they did take risks. And while this one certainly has a lot of atmosphere, it doesn't really try anything that different. Okay, I don't need Monster Squad style violence, but just something to make it stand out a little bit more. But then again, maybe you could argue that's part of its charm. It's not an in-your-face movie, it's not a very obvious monster film. The journey and the build-up and the suspense maybe is what the star is supposed to be. It is a kid's film after all, and after hearing all the people that talk about and remember it, I guess it did leave a bigger impact than I imagined it probably would. It's a good film, I just don't think it's great. I think I get more sucked into the foggy shadows than I do the actual characters or story. But they still suck me in enough to want to know what's going to happen in the end. If you're looking for one of those classic, intense 80s kids films that are super dark and super shocking, this probably isn't it for you. But if you're looking for something to just put on that has a lot of atmosphere and a bit of a creepy vibe, this might be more up your alley. Think something like Are You Afraid of the Dark, except a little smarter and more elegant. Check it out next Halloween and see for yourself. It's the final in the now very poorly named Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi. Everyone says this is the least of the original 3 Star Wars films. Not bad, just not as good as the other 2. And honestly, I think it gets a little bit of a bum rap. Not to say the criticisms aren't right, it's just the stuff that's good in it I think is a lot better than some of the stuff in the other films. But does that make it better than the other 2? Well, let's take a look. Han Solo is kept captive by the evil gangster Jabba the Hutt. Luke, Leia, and Lando all try to sneak in to break him out, but they get caught themselves. After several fight sequences and battling a bunch of monsters, they eventually escape and make it back to the Rebellion, where they find out the Empire is once again building another Death Star. Only this time, the leader of the Empire, the Emperor, will be on there for them to take it down. So the team tries to take down the shield generator that's on a nearby moon, while the rest of the fighters try to fly in to blow it up. The team on the moon comes across inhabitants called Ewoks, while Luke separates from the team to confront the Emperor and Darth Vader himself. Can the rebels take down the evil Empire once and for all? And will Luke ultimately find himself turning to the light side or the dark side? A fitting setup for a finale, but the biggest problem everybody has, that I have to admit I have too, is that there's way too many detours. The opening sequence with Jabba the Hutt and breaking Han Solo out, it goes on forever. There's a moment you can end it where Luke destroys this big monster, but no, they had to drag them to another monster for him to destroy. Truth be told, you could cut everything having to do with Jabba out of these movies and you would miss nothing. Think about it. You could have Han Solo captured by anybody. Hell, you don't even really need to get rid of him. That's just sort of leaving it open for a cliffhanger. He could have been with the team. He didn't have to be sent away. Honestly, the Ewoks play a bigger part than the Jabba the Hutt scenes. I know that sounds crazy, but really think about it. The Ewoks help take down the Empire. They play a part. They serve the story. And it also makes a well-intended, if not immaturely done message of nature versus technology, which is in a lot of stories and myths. So why do we put up with those Jabba scenes so much? Well, to put simply, Jabba's a cool character. He's this big fat slug that just does whatever he wants. It's kind of the American dream. He's a gangster and he gets away with it. So why do so many people hate the Ewoks? Because one, we already saw a ton of puppets and we're getting sick of them. Second, they're little teddy bears, and after the last film where everything was so dark and gritty, what, we suddenly got a bunch of little teddy bears? This is feeling more like a toy commercial. In my honest opinion, if you wanted to fix this, Jabba should have been on the moon. Cut out the opening, save him until halfway, have him capture Solo wanting his money back, but then when he finds out the Empire is in his territory, then he decides to fight him off and help the rebellion. How much more fitting would that have been? Jabba would have been both the bad guy and the good guy at the same time. And he would have had a purpose, and oh my god, wouldn't it be so cool if you saw Jabba's people attacking those stormtroopers instead of Ewoks? Also throw in a pointless motorcycle style chase, an all too similar retread of the destroying the Death Star in the first film, and little teddy bears throwing rocks, and yeah, you can see how a lot of people would see this as the lesser of the films. But with that said, not only are these some of the best effects that ever came out of the movies, but it has some of the most dramatic moments. The scenes where Luke is confronting Vader and the Emperor are some of the best in any of the movies. The guy they got to play the Emperor is perfect. He's old and frail, but by God, he has such presence and this deep, crackling voice with these yellow eyes. It's almost something out of The Exorcist. At times his acting can be a little goofy, but it's goofy in just the right way. He's taking a risk that you're in such a dark, uncomfortable mood that you're just going to accept that this is creepy. And for the most part, it works. The whole atmosphere is just so dark and so brooding and so shadowy, you just feel like you've descended into hell. The minute Luke walks in as their prisoner, the Emperor just gets rid of the handcuffs. Like, yeah, we know there's nothing you can do here. And the longer it goes, the more we dive deeper and deeper into the darker side of Luke's anger, of Luke's rage, and the visuals all support it. The pacing supports it too. There's a fight going on, but it's also very psychological. The music, the atmosphere, the acting, the dialogue, everything, it's perfect. It's about as pitch perfect a scene you can get in any Star Wars film. But does that make up for the other little mistakes in the film? Probably not. But like I said before, even though a lot of it doesn't always connect, it's cool. The scenes with Jabba are cool, and yeah, I'll even say the Ewoks are not as bad as everybody says they are. It led to some okay jokes, and I like the idea of wood trampling steel. By the end, when everything wrapped up, it just kind of felt right. When you see the final scene in the Ewok village, you just kind of go, yeah, you know what? This is a good place to stop. Everybody seems happy, everybody seems in the right place. Were there flaws? Sure, but just like there were flaws in the other films too. I guess I just don't get when everybody says this is the lighthearted one when there were such dark and gritty scenes in it. Some of them the best out of any of the movies. So yeah, is the first film technically told better? Yes, but I still stand by the third has some of the best moments out of any of them. And like I said, it's just a good ending. Not the best, but still pretty damn impressive. And for a while, this is all Star Wars fans thought they would ever get out of this, but little did they know that so much more, good and bad, was awaiting them in the future. Well, I've talked about this film a ton of times, now I'm gonna talk about it again. Return to Oz. This has started to get a cult following as that film that scared the shit out of you as a little kid, but we all really liked. And yeah, that's kind of my memory too. I don't remember being so scared that I was crying at this film or anything, but yeah, I do remember it being pretty damn creepy and unsettling. But it was okay because it drew me back in with such a nice main character and such nice side characters and a lot of creativity, and yeah, you know what? I really like this flick. Even if it does have a lot of dark, creepy elements. Speaking of which, let's look at the story. Dorothy, having returned from Oz, talks all about the world she's been to Auntie Anne, but of course, everybody doesn't believe her. At first they think it's childish play, but she just keeps talking about it and they're getting more and more concerned. And then she starts to fall into a deep depression. So they're gonna take her to a doctor to try this new method that apparently is gonna fix her up right away. It's called shock therapy. Oh yeah, I can see a lot of good things coming from this. But one of the nurses, or was it patients, I was never quite sure, saves Dorothy and sends her out in the middle of a storm. Actually, it might have been safer just to leave her there. But when she wakes up, she's back in the land of Oz. But the Scarecrow is no longer in charge like when she left. Instead, it's taken over by this evil queen with 1,000,000 heads and the Gnome King, who soon will have control of all of Oz, and Dorothy is the key. Along the way, she comes across some interesting characters like a robot named TikTok, another scarecrowish creation called Jack Pumpkinhead, a talking chicken, and even a flying couch. Yeah, how's that for an out there cast of characters? And that's the word to describe this movie, out there. There are some strange, creepy creations in this, like the Wheelers. Oh my god, when these things first pop up, they'll scare any kid. A lot of the shots and imagery in this film, a lot of critics complain are too scary, and yeah, okay, I'm not gonna act like I don't see where they're coming from, but in my opinion, it never goes too far. It never goes bloody, it never goes too gritty, it never goes sexual, it never goes into anything that's ethically bad. It's just creepy. But yeah, a lot of kids can't handle creepy stuff, and if your kids are frightened by this, yeah, I'll understand. I'm not recommending it for everybody, but let's be honest, there's a lot of kids out there that like to be afraid. I was one of them, I know plenty of people that were too. And the fact that this film does have such a following from people that love it, not because it's so bad it's good, but because it's so good it's good. There is a charm to these characters, and there is a kindness, and Dorothy is very likable, and TikTok is a great character, and Jack is so likable. I like these characters, and I like this world, even if it is kind of in ruins. The whole movie has sort of a surreal, dreamlike quality that both ranges from really pleasant nice dreams into horrific nightmares. But I think there's a lot of kids and adults that can relate to that. If it was nothing but hardships all the way through, or it didn't have a good, nice main character, then it probably wouldn't have worked. But there are some decent moments, and there are some nice creative times, and there is a lot of kindness from our main cast. And like I said, the creativity is wonderful. There's a lot of stop motion in this film, and it looks really great. It actually reminds me a lot of the Harryhausen days. It just looks really good. And the rest of the effects are damn impressive too. There's so many puppets, there's so many giant sets. It's just a great looking film. I think for me, when I was a kid, I respected films like this because I felt like they were giving me a chance to feel a little older. They were trying to scare me. They were trying to make me a little tougher. And I didn't mind that. I wanted something that was going to challenge me a bit. And for kids, something that's scary but still engaging is kind of challenging. How can we like something that we assume is bad for us and going to scare us, but yet we keep watching it? I did a whole editorial about this, and if you want to hear more about it, go watch that. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to review this movie. And in the end, I think it's a damn good movie. I think it's charming, it has a lot of heart, and yes, it has a whole lot of scares. But they're creative scares and they're fun scares, and in my opinion, they never go too far. Is it like the last cinematic Wizard of Oz? No, it's something entirely different and is based more on the books, which could get really dark and really grim. But the reason they worked back then is because there was this charm to them, and there's a charm to this movie too. So I can't help but really enjoy it. If you're curious for yourself, check it out and get ready to have your childhood bejesuses scared out of you. after Disney's death, the studio didn't have the stream of big hits that it used to. I mean, it had a big hit every once in a while, but for the most part, it never quite hit the Snow White standards. And on top of that, the films were just taking longer and longer and longer to make. So if the film didn't really wow audiences, people sort of felt they got gypped. And the film that many Disney fans call the crowning achievement of failure is The Black Cauldron. How bad is it? Well, for a movie that had a ton of money put into both the animation and the advertising, it failed to please audiences and critics alike, proving to be a gigantic financial failure. This film did so bad that on its opening weekend, it lost to the Care Bears movie. You heard right, a Disney film lost to the Care Bears movie. It was considered the lowest point in Disney history. So wow, this film must be really, really bad, right? Well, yeah. Despite the fact that it's starting to grow sort of a cult following, it really doesn't hold up that well. At least for my taste. What's the story? Well, it's about this teenage boy who wants to be a hero. The only problem is he's much more talk and much less do. And when I say talk, I mean really talk. I mean, this kid doesn't shut up.
Dorban doesn't understand. I'm not a little boy anymore. I should be doing heroic deeds for Prydain. Is this to be my life? Pampering a pig? I'm a warrior.
And I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it look like he's full of himself, but an innocent, and then when he enters the real world, he's gonna discover things about himself, blah, 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 blah. But I'm sorry, his voice is annoying. And on top of that, his ego is annoying. He barely does anything in this movie.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. But without the help of my pig Henwin here,
He just praises himself, and God, I want to smack him! Well, anyway, he's looking after this pig named Henwig, who has this very distinct power of whenever you put her head in a puddle of water, she can see the future. Isn't that weird? Well, apparently there's this evil demon known as the Horned King, and he wants possession of the pig so he can take her and look into the future to see if she can lead him to the Black Cauldron. What's the Black Cauldron? Apparently it's a device that can bring people back from the dead and create an invincible army. Along the way, he comes across a princess. Yeah, imagine, a princess in a Disney film. And I know I go on and on about princess rants, but really, there is absolutely no point to having her be a princess in this movie. Even by Disney standards, she doesn't do anything princessy. She doesn't wear fancy dresses, she doesn't give orders, she doesn't, I don't know, sing. We don't even see her kingdom. We don't even see her castle. We don't see anything that Disney loves to market when it comes to princesses. All she's got going for her is the name, so really there was no reason for it. There's also this really annoying comic relief that's sort of like a mix between oatmeal and a hairball. Yeah, you thought Jar Jar Binks' voice was annoying? Get a load of this.
Oh, poor miserable Gurgi deserves fierce smackings and whackings on his poor tender head.
Yeah, between these two characters' voices, I want to strangle this film. Even the music by the great Elmore Bernstein. All I hear throughout the entire thing is Ghostbusters. Listen. Tell me that doesn't sound like the Zool theme. Okay, so for all my bitching and moaning, is this really one of the worst Disney films of all time? Well, I don't know if I can go that far. I mean, it is annoying, but there is some creativity to the animation, though not much. And as frustrating as it can get, it never gets to a point where it says anything bad. I mean, I can't think of any bad messages or morals or anything. It's just sort of bland and forgettable, like a lot of the Disney films that were coming out at that time. It's not the worst, but it's definitely one of the lower ones. But like I said, the film's really starting to grow in fans, and I find more and more people actually sort of have this secret like for it. So maybe there is something there that can grab a certain group of people. But it certainly didn't grab me, and it certainly didn't grab a lot of audiences at the time. Black Cauldron is often called one of Disney's biggest failures. I think it's just kind of a bad movie. Not the worst, but I'd probably skip it.